Okay, are you ready for the word, everyone? Get ready. Come on, cheer Kirby up.
Can we, that word Shekinah, that Shekinah glory is, you see, why I'm teaching this stuff is because of imbalance. And that's what we need to understand. There goes my mask. Imbalance, meaning that we are creating out of a bias. We are creating out of a power struggle. We are creating out of insecurity. We are creating out of a perverted and corrupted image of God. Now, that to me is a big deal. It's a really big deal. If you understand, the whole Bible is about the image of God. And when I started seeing this kind of stuff, and I thank God for the grace upon my life, I started seeing it quite early. And I think Fiona has a lot to do with me being able to see it. And also my ability to see and appraise myself and my mistakes. You see, that really taught me that, my God, I sometimes look back at my ministry and my life and I think, what would have happened to my ministry if Fiona was not with me? It blows me away to see the disaster that would have for sure come to me if I didn't stop for a moment, humble myself and say, I think I might, it seems so right. Some of the stuff seems so, I was so right. And there was no way I could have been wrong. And then all that happened was just by grace, you can't even say it, but it was me. It was like a humbling came to me and said, let me try it her way. And suddenly, and not in offense, there are so many ways we deal with our ignorance. When we deal with our ignorance a lot of time to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We like it or we don't like it. It's good or it's bad. And then there is this other place that is also how we deal with it, like we don't care. That's how we deal with our ignorance. When we don't know something, we always say, oh, it's right, wrong, or I don't care about that. Or what about that? I don't care about that. And I'm not talking about I don't care. But when Fiona started leading the way in certain places, I didn't say, oh, it's okay, let's go and see what happens. That's what a lot of people do. Let's see and a lot of people live their lives waiting for someone else to fail because they believe they were right. But when I wholeheartedly cooperated with Fiona's plan and said, Fiona, it looks all wrong, but I'm going to agree with you and I'm going to bless you and I'm going to walk with you and I'm going to encourage you and I'm going to really hope with all my heart that where you're taking me is going to work. When I did it like that, I've realized amazing power, authority, and tremendous wisdom and success that came upon my life. And because of that, I started sort of understanding that ministry was different to the Pentecostal charismatic Protestant theology of the submission. Women, submit to your husband. And I always saw that verse before and said, but it says, no, submit to one another, and then this thing. So there was a disparity there. And please understand, I'm not preaching an imbalance. That's what people understand. And so, ladies, you are wise. So you'll understand I'm not preaching suddenly a takeover. You understand it. And I promise you, sometimes when there is a takeover and when there is an overpowering, husbands, you need to look, and guys, it's not just husbands, but guys, you need to look why the feminist movement is a movement in the way it is because when you are suppressed and oppressed for so long, you rise and take power in ways that you're not supposed to. And if your wife you think is controlling and manipulating, if you think that's the case, you got to look at how much of oppression she's under. And whether she wants to rise and just take control because she's so oppressed and suppressed in a relationship. And that happens with so many people. It happens with anyone who's put down. And the healing and the restoration of that will take longer for you if you don't see it. You understand? The healing for yourself and for herself to get out of the fact that she has to always struggle, always overpower, always shout, always manipulate, always control to get what she wants, if you realize that that might be because you're so legalistic in your approach in dealing with this issue, and then she has to do that, and I'll tell you the damage is more, it will be longer lasting if you don't see it now. You get what I'm trying to say? Because now, not only does she have to understand who she is, but she needs to get healed of all the hurts and the suppression that has been there through your journey. Do you get that? So I want to sing this song because in the Bible, there's balance. Throughout the Bible, in the Old Testament, when you see it, it blows you away. Shekinah was that name, Shaka. You know what Ramesh says, the Shaka Bundai, the Shaka that you have was feminine. And so when you say Shekinah glory come, and when I look at the story of Mary, and Prophet Kirby preached it beautifully, he said, you know, how the Father overshadows her, and then what is birthed from her. And that's the divine mother in the natural, but there's also the divine mother which we miss a lot. And when we don't see it, we are constantly biased to it because we don't see it. That the Shekinah or the Spirit in the Old Testament was always feminine. So every time you had the Father, right in the beginning, the Spirit was hovering on the water, there was always mother and father. There was always mother and father. But somehow, because of bias and because of men's interpretation, we lost the fact that there is a story of a mother and father and the children. And this is the story of the mother and the father and the children. And constantly, it's in the Bible. And when we see even how Jesus was born, it has been off, and I've been off on it as well, when you see that there was the Father overshadowing and there was the Spirit. And that was the intimacy. Not between Mary and the Father. It was the Spirit, which is feminine in gender, and the Father. And there was the birth of the children. You see, and you see it, and you see the natural mother under that giving birth. And when you see it and you understand that the Shekinah glory is really mom coming with dad so that he can birth something, it changes everything. And so I want you to sing this song, just 2 minutes of it, with an understanding that you're talking about mom. It changes everything. Watch this. Keep going.
Here we are, standing in your presence. Here we are, standing in your presence. Shekinah glory, come down. Shekinah glory, come down. Here we are, standing in your presence. Here we are, standing in your presence. Shekinah glory, come down. Shekinah glory, come down. Here we are, standing in the presence. Here we are, we're standing in the presence. Shekinah glory, come down. Shekinah glory, come down. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Shekinah glory, come down. Release the fullness of your spirit. Shekinah glory come. Shekinah glory come. Release the fullness of your spirit. Shekinah glory come. Shekinah glory come. The fullness of your spirit. Shekinah glory come. Oh, Shekinah glory come.
You see, it's the fullness of the Spirit. It's the fullness. We're finally getting the fullness of the Spirit. I'm telling you, and then we'll create out of balance. We'll create out of the fullness of the image of God. What is being corrupted is the image. Okay, so take your seats. Take your seats. Guys, so important to understand, if you're single, boy or girl, I'm not promoting you to get married. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying go get married. You know I'm not that type of church, okay? Some of you do really well on your own, okay? It's better for all of us if you don't get married. Okay? Okay, so I'm not saying that, but I'm trying to say get in touch with the balance in your life. Get in touch with that person that you feel is missing, and that is internal. We are both the image of God. Do you understand that? And in that, there is creativity, there is power, there is authority. The fullness of the Spirit comes upon you. Do you understand that? Are you guys okay? Can I go on? Yeah? Okay, so I need you to be all ears, and if you're watching me from USA, Canada, or from wherever you are in the world, this is WOWLife Church. We are a church that preaches revelation. We love the Word of God. We teach from the Word. I'm not teaching externally or outside of this Word. I'm teaching within this Word. I like books that are, I read a lot. I research a lot. I'm not one of those people that don't read any other book. Please understand, I believe the inspiration of the Spirit in whatever book the Spirit inspires is the letter that kills, and that there is power, authority, and there's sacredness when the Spirit inspires whatever book. Just understand that. But I love the Bible because in this is power-packed a mystery. Okay, a mystery of this God. Somehow, the Lord is revealing to me, and I think it's going to come out soon, but He's revealing to me that right in the garden, what happened was imbalance. And when you see that, something shifts. Right in the garden, and you'll realize that why Jesus had to come through a woman under the law. You see, He said He came born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who are under the law. You see, because in the law, there was a lot of oppression, suppression. There was a lot of stuff that went on. And Jesus points it out when He talks about divorce. He talks about it to His people, and He says, you know what? In the beginning, He says, Moses allowed you to have many wives because of the hardness of your hearts. Think about that, okay? Because of the hardness of men's heart. And you understand that the Levitical priesthood and all that came after that was because of the hardness of men's heart. There were certain laws that had to be placed because of the hardness of men's heart. But He says, in the beginning, it was not so. Think about that when you're reading the Bible. When you read in the Bible, you have to see the narrative that Jesus is building, that God is building right from the beginning. And I'll tell you, it's quite profound. When we talk of systemic, we don't understand systemic because talking about it, the more we talk about it, the more you understand it. Because let's put it like this, like a simple story, like Fiona was studying for her master's in theology at Fuller. So she was doing some sort of dissertation or some sort of papers at some point. And she was pointing out and said, Kirby, did you just understand that there is so much of systemic stuff that when we look at the simple lives of like Bathsheba, and we hear the story of David, and David, and we all joke about it and say, me as well, and he watched Baywatch when he got off his balcony and he looked down, and we say that kind of stuff and we laugh about it, but what we don't understand is that this person, David, who was supposed to be this king after God's own heart, just understand that David, when he writes his Psalms, he does not in any way or form allude to the fact that he was a righteous man. So you've got to take it from there. You've got to take his word from it. Forget about what you perceive through the Bible. David in his Psalm says that he's a man of many flaws and many faults. And when you look at his life, you can see, oh my God, this guy was, it's okay to say, he was a man after God's own heart because he acknowledged that he was a terrible man. Do you understand? And that's okay to see that because it's not out of my own words, it's out of his own mouth. But you've got to take it for what he says. Don't try to put on this guy some sort of godliness that he himself does not allude to or talk about. Do you just understand that? But what causes us to put on that godliness on him? Like, oh my God, he's just David, the man after God's own heart, just awesome man. Without seeing the other one is that thing that I'm talking about, which we call systemic. See, if you don't see it, then the guy himself is saying, I am a bad man. Like, no, it's okay. You're the king. God loves you. Like, dude, he just told you that he's a terrible guy. Just thinking, yeah, you are a terrible guy. I know that. Thank God for Jesus and thank God for God because, my God, otherwise you should be erased from this book. But thank God that people, you and me, get a chance to come up and talk like this. Do you understand that? But that systemic thing refuses us to see the terrifying nature of this man. A man who in one place, I like the wording in one place, and one place is really cool because he's asking a drunkard, I can't remember the guy's name, Nahab or someone like that, for some a very rich drunkard. Okay, I know a couple like that, but for some resources, and he's about to be king, but he's not still king, but he's up and coming. And that guy has a wife called Abigail who's supposed to be very beautiful. And this man, of course, doesn't consider, maybe he's one of Saul's friends, he's like, who's this small dude, coming asking me for stuff, just, whatever, peddle off. And then he peddles off. And but David is planning to kill him. Like, it wasn't a request, it was like, give it to me or I'll kill you. And Abigail comes to him, and then Abigail, the wife, comes to him and says, please don't do what you're planning to do. And he relates to that, and he actually says this word, and it's a funny word. You see it in the Bible. He says, it's good that you're here with me. Now, he's telling this woman, who's someone's wife, because he says, because tomorrow morning there won't be anyone to piddle on the wall. Or the word is piss on the wall in the Bible. And I thought that was cool. That's in your Bible. It's really there. I was like, there's going to be a man to piss on your wall. I was like, what? Is that really there or what? Or is that a commentary? That's there. Someone check it out, please. Mark likes that. Okay, so, this guy was he was a terrible guy. And naturally, this woman, prostrates herself before him and says, please, don't do this. And finally, Nahab dies, I don't know, mysterious sort of ways. And he gets married to her. He doesn't really get married to her because he was now king, and he's like, call the woman here. The beautiful woman, that drunkard's wife. Get over here. It was something like that, right? So she was brought in, and on his way with Abigail, now he's just say, okay, let's marry. He stops in at some other woman's house and gets married to her. That's really in the Bible. Just understand what we're dealing with. But we don't see it because of systemic stuff. On his way to honeymoon, he stops over at another woman's house and says, bring that woman as well. Like, I'm bored. Okay. And just see it. Once you see it, you get healed. Because this book, this book is being given to us. I'll tell you why. When I put the TV on, I watch with eyes of fairness, of justice. And that's why a lot of people, they watch their politics, they don't understand fairness. I can like a guy, I can know a guy, but I see injustice when I see injustice, and I do not get biased because God loves justice. So when you're reading the movie or the narrative of the Bible, if you don't call injustice, you will never be able to do that in your everyday life because you are close to it even when you read this. This book was your training ground to watch CNN. If you're now watching in this book and say, that's a bit off, that's really off. God, that's off. You think this guy is cool? I think it's off. If you can't say that to God and have a discourse with him and have this relationship with him, it's like, let me tell you and let me show you something. Because he's not off. But he's got people who write this book who's off and people who preach this gospel who's off. That's why we're called men or human beings. And when you understand that the whole story is the Spirit in human form, you see the flaws of every single person here, and it's okay. We're not gossiping today about David. He's in the cloud with us. But we're saying, man, you were a terror. And in fact, I can say, you just like me. But not in that department. I didn't do so well in that department. But I did some bad stuff as well. Yeah. I got hooked too early. I was like 13 and a half. No, she was 13 and a half. I was 15. But anyway, just giving you the understanding. And so it's systemic. You don't understand that it is the same guy who goes over his balcony and looks down and says, okay, I built my house over someone's bathroom. And she's not exactly trying to expose herself or trying to tempt me here. It's just that this is my privilege. Think about this, okay? And then he tells his guys, who's that? And he says, oh, that is Uriah the Hittite, your best warrior. The guy who, this is what Uriah says. I don't even go to my wife to sleep with my wife because I first come to sleep at the king's door to protect him. Oh, that's his wife. The guy who comes and doesn't even go home when he finishes war. He's so tired after he finishes war, but he doesn't go home to even sleep with his wife. He comes and sleeps at your door because he wants to protect you. And so he says, oh, really? Oh, too bad. And when Uriah goes to war again, he says, boys, bring her. Now, we don't know what the bring her was like because no one explains. All we know is that she's brought. And no one sees that because David is the man after God's heart. It's systemic. No one knows that when she's brought in to David and when David actually sleeps with her, we just naturally think, oh, this woman was tempting him. This is an affair. But out of our own judgment. Without understanding this could have been absolute fear and control. And we don't know what happened. But it was like, this is a king who said, bring her. Husband's at war. This is the king over her husband's life. She knew what could happen to her husband. She knew very well. How do you know she didn't know man like Abigail knew? How do you know she thinks, oh my God, if I don't sleep with this man now, my husband could die? And how do you know that exactly what she thought happened? How do you know it was not manipulated? We don't know that because it says that once Bathsheba slept with David, it says that she went and washed herself from the defilement. It doesn't show a woman who enjoyed it. She said she washed herself. Just can you imagine what she's feeling? And unless we see that she's washing, it's just like, oh, get this off me. Trying to get myself clean from what had happened to her. We are biased. We are absolutely biased. And we read the Psalms of David and we look at it from a different place without understanding it's a man just like you, or maybe even, guess what? Worse than you. And that should also give you strength. It should give you strength. Do you understand that? But you got to see it. If you don't see it, you know why we are not protected is because we are not sensitive. The New Testament is about the circumcision of our heart. The circumcision means just sensitivity. The whole story in the Bible at the end is the circumcision of man's heart means, I hope now you all will be a little more sensitive. That's what God is asking us to do. Do you understand? Just be more sensitive. And so when I'm teaching this stuff, I'm asking you, do you see an imbalance? Because if you don't see it in the stories, then you won't see it in your workplace. That's the problem. If you don't see it here, you will never see it in your life. You'll never see it in your workspace. You'll never see it in your nation. You'll never see it in your family. You'll never see it if you don't see it here. You understand? Once you see it, you're like, man, that's crazy that happened. You see? And once you see it there, something shifts. I'm trying to show it to you here. Okay? I'm trying to show it to you that we don't know why that first situation happened and she got pregnant, and then she says, tell him I'm pregnant now. Because she knows that this guy, if he finds out, he will kill her. He will kill David. He'll kill the king. You know, and I don't think she expected, but what she expected happened. And you see the mourning, that it says that she mourned the death of her husband. She wasn't happy about the death of her husband. When she realized that what she did, okay, everything that happened. Do you understand how unworthy she would have felt throughout her life as she walked in this place where she was taken prisoner, taken by force, nearly raped? We don't know. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that she was raped. But I'm saying if in today's day and age it was controlled, it was rape. I mean, you just understand it. And I'm sure David will be okay with it because he's already asked for forgiveness. That's the Psalms, a crying out to God to forgive him. That's the Psalms. So it's okay, I can talk about it. We're not scandalizing it. I'm talking to you from his life. Once you see it, you see systemic stuff, and you realize that you can bring a change in your heart and in the way you do church. And I'm going to show you something, okay? It's going to blow you away. Okay, are you ready? Yeah. The same systemic stuff. Now, this one that I'm showing you is so important because it's existential. Existential in the sense that this is why, guys, this is probably why God destroyed the earth. This reason that I'm going to show you, and it'll blow you away. He destroyed the earth because of this reason. Just understand it. I mean, that's how much he hates it. This is the reason why maybe he came to a woman born under the law and birthed his son to bring her back into dignity. This might be the reason. Just understand this. This is how existential this story is for you and me. This might be the very reason that I'm going to show you now, this systemic that we have not seen. The very reason, and here's the crazy thing, that Christ comes as the bridegroom to receive a bride to bring her back into dignity. And it's all the way back, and he closes that place of imbalance. This might be the very reason. I'm going to show it to you. And when you see it, just like I showed you Bathsheba and all that, you're going to see it. And once you see it, everything should shift in your life because you're like, oh my God, I didn't see that. Unless I bring balance, God destroyed the earth. He allowed the earth to be destroyed because of this reason. And then you see it right there in Matthew 24. Jesus is talking about the destruction of the world, and if you are not a semi-preterist, then you will believe that this is going to happen, that the earth is going to be destroyed. It doesn't matter if you're watching me and you're not semi-preterist. I might be a little bit preterist, okay? But the fact of the matter is, if you're thinking the earth is going to be destroyed in the future, this is the reason it's going to be destroyed as well. Wow. But if you think that 70 AD was the destruction of the temple, and all the system of the Jewish system born under law was destroyed, let me tell you, this was the reason it was destroyed as well. Now, you'll understand why I call it existential. And it's to do with the rising of the divine feminine. Okay, now watch this. Okay, watch this, and you're going to learn something, man, today that will blow you away. Are you ready? Okay, we're going to go very fast, okay? So, let's look at this story right in Genesis, and we're going to see this again. And I'm telling you, I'm already on very, very controversial ground, so it really doesn't matter. Okay, so we're going to get a little bit more controversial, but I'm not going to go into this. But I'm going to take this story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, and let's jump into it. And it's in, where is it? It's in 19. Okay, and I know there's so many stories on Sodom and Gomorrah and why you and Christians have portrayed that this city was wicked. But I'm just going to show you, as much as you might portray it to be wicked in that sense, I'm showing you a systemic wickedness that you have not seen in this very story. But we can look at that and point fingers, but we can't look at this guy who was called Righteous Lot and realize that there's something wrong with this guy. Okay? Now here's the story. Okay, so 2 angels come into the city. Now, what you must understand is historically, they had a context for angels coming down, unlike you and I. Historically, they had a context for this thing. And so you'll see that the angels, that they come into the city, and the people in the city now want to know the angels in a certain way. Okay, the word know there is intimate, carnal, all kinds of things. Okay, now we jump into that without understanding this is a terrible thing that goes on, because they now come in hordes to Lot's house and they ask him for the 2 angels. Watch this, okay? Now this is a funny thing. Now here it is. Lot says this, and this is what we miss. This is what Lot says. He says, see now. Now, who is, if you can't remember, I'm talking about Abraham, I'm talking about Lot, I'm talking about after the days of Noah. So I'm going to connect this with the days of Noah. I'm connecting this with Jesus telling in Matthew 24 that the destruction of the world has to do with the days of Noah. Do you understand that? I'm bringing a justification to why Jesus says that. Okay, so that's where I'm going to end up. Will you let me go there? Okay? Now watch this, okay? So it says this, that when they were asked, when they said, send these people out, Lot has a wonderful proposition. If you were a father in today's generation, you won't even think like this. Okay? But Lot has a wonderful proposition for this. He says, see now, in verse 8, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please let me bring them out to you, that you may literally rape them. Okay? As you wish, do what you wish with them. Only do nothing to these 2 men. Guys, is that in your Bible? That's there. Do you understand that? And so we will point fingers at, Sodom and Gomorrah and all the convictions we have about that place without understanding that it's in Ezekiel. If you go into Ezekiel 16, I'm just going to show it to you in Ezekiel 16 very fast so that you have a reference point to it. Just put Ezekiel 16 up. in verse Ezekiel 16, verse, I think it's 49. Here it is. Without understanding, Ezekiel 16, verse 49 explains the sin of Sodom. Look at this, okay? So we can't go away from this. This is what your Bible says the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah was. Look, this was the sin of your sister Sodom. That's it there. So it says this is the sin. Is it there? Can we go out of that? No, we can't. It says this is the sin. But you hear preachers preach all kinds of things. This is the sin of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters had pride, fullness of food, and abundance of idleness. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and the needy. Is it there? So she did not look after the marginalized. She was haughty, she was proud. That was the abomination that they were talking about. Because there is no explanation of any other abomination except for the fact that true Christianity is to look after the widows and the orphans. That was the sin. There was such injustice and unfairness in Sodom. So let's jump back into the story so that's a reference point if anyone challenges you, because the Bible says it. So I can't have a different interpretation on that. Now watch this. Now here it is. So being there for the marginalized, being there for the people who have been treated unfairly is a big deal to God. In fact, he destroys cities. According to this Old Testament story, he destroys people's lives. Hold on 1 minute. Very important. He destroys people's lives. Or the fact that you've been unfair. Very important to get. Justice is a key, crucial point for God. Governments topple and governments win on this system of justice or injustice. Come on. You'll see as any government starts, the marginalized start getting persecuted. Things happen. That's what is happening here. Now watch this. Now, as you watch Sodom and Gomorrah, his proposition was, hey, why don't I give my 2 daughters? Now there's something wrong with that, because right there, if we don't see that and we see anything else, with a greater emphasis. When the Bible clearly says what the iniquity of Sodom and sin was, and every pastor preaching that knows Ezekiel, I mean, surely if you're a pastor, you read the whole Bible, right? Otherwise, what are you doing being a pastor? You get what I'm trying to say? You surely would have read the Bible. So, the fact of the matter is, but your overemphasis of something else and not seeing that this is a bigger problem. Lot's stance on his 2 daughters, and that he can just give his daughters out to be raped, and that was okay, shows you the problem with that community and that society. You just get what I'm trying to say? Now, why am I telling you that, guys? Because now we understand when we see the story in Matthew 24, when Jesus looks back and he talks about the destruction of the world, and when pestilence and sickness and disease and earthquakes and all this kind of stuff he's talking of that looks apocalyptic, okay? And I'm not one of those preachers that are apocalyptic, but these days surely seems apocalyptic. I'm not saying it's the end of the world. Please, no, I'm not that preacher, but I'm trying to tell you there's plagues, there's sicknesses, there's diseases, and my God, does the consciousness of man have something to do with it? Yes. Do we create out of the abundance or the lack of our hearts? Yes. Can every generation come to a dimension in their place or a season in their lives where the wickedness of man shall prevail so strong in man's hearts that they will bring forth to themselves the destruction that is already in their internal environment that they are harboring, fostering, and protecting? I believe so. I'm not saying it's the end of the world. But I do believe that the condition of man's heart can be wicked in such a way that it attracts every destruction. That's what I preach individually to you as well. Am I correct? Come on, man. And if the church is given as a solution, but the church itself doesn't have the solution, but the church itself harbors, protects, completely imbalanced and finds it okay that's the way it should be, then the question needs to be asked, do we need a reformation? And that's what WOWLife Church is about. Wherever we are about a reform move. We're not a revival, we are a reform move. The doctrines that come out of the place bring reform. Now, when you see that, you see Matthew 24, and I just want you to jump into Matthew 24, because now we have Matthew 24 and Jesus talking about the destruction, the apocalyptic times, and people say this is the end of the world, but I'm just saying this is the end of that world. For me, it was the end of the Jewish world, but it can also be the end of the future world. And a future technology, and a new world can rise. It doesn't mean it has been destroyed, but it can be an archaic system, an archaic sort of understanding can be destroyed and new things can come to pass. So Matthew 24 is talking about it, and Jesus says this, and this is really interesting because why I told you Lot's story is because it connects with this, and this is systemic. Because guys, when in Genesis 6, you see this story, watch the story, okay, listen carefully to the story. The story was that men started multiplying on the earth. This is Genesis 6, chapter 6. If you're only 5 chapters down, just get it from the creation story. So this is right in the beginning of things. It's there. It's not Genesis 25. This is Genesis 6. That means it's the vital part of our existence. And we have to understand it. So even if you are understanding it psychologically, it's fine. Because it's going to help you. Now, here it is. In Genesis 6, the Bible tells a very strange story. That now as men began multiplying on the face of the earth, the sons of God saw, watch this, that the daughters of men were very beautiful. And then it goes, and they took wives for themselves. I just told you Genesis 6. Now we know, according to Lot's story, and understanding the historical culture of Lot's story, we see that no woman could just go and give herself to a man. Yeah. Come on, now you get it. So when you see that the sons of God, angelic beings, or some sort of primordial intelligence, angels can be demons, angels, we don't know, some kind of primordial intelligence comes onto the earth. They see the daughters of men, and guess what? The fathers, and don't forget that Lot's kids, the girls, were married. And I can't go into detail of the culture because they were still virgins and stuff like that, but I'll explain to you. It was the sons and the fathers who were giving out their wives and their daughters. Come on, Jesus. Because there was no restoration of the feminine from the fall of Adam. And this is the problem why he brings the flood. So all this time it was so systemic that we thought, oh, some demonic or some angels came, and this is how we taught in church, and the women just lusted after them. And the women ran out of their houses, lusting after these beings, and slept with them. And it just ruined the world. The same way we saw Bathsheba lusting after David. Do you understand it? The same way we systemically saw that, we see that story without understanding it, that Jesus says this. And this is when he's talking about the destruction of the world again. He talks about the days of Noah and says this is why he did it. And he says this is why it's coming again. And that's why I say it's an existential issue. Watch what he says. Matthew 24. Now, here we are in Matthew 24. In Matthew 24, we have this story. Verse 36. But on that day, now listen carefully, on that day, no one knows, even the angels of heaven don't know the hour, but only the Father knows. Now that is in context of the bridegroom coming. I can't go into details, but on a Tuesday I can go into details. It's to do with a bridegroom sending the son, the father sending the bridegroom as the son to be married to a bride. Only the Father knows the hour. Watch this. But as in the days of Noah, is it there? So also there will be a coming of the Son of Man. Okay, as in the days of, say as in the days of Noah. Okay, for in those days, before the flood, this is Genesis 6. They were eating, drinking, marrying, and given in marriage. Is it there? That was his problem. That was his problem. Because there was a situation, there were people were given in marriage. And there was a situation where at that point of time, women were objectionalized. They were treated like property. And when people wanted to make some sort of good offering, they would just give their wives or even their daughters. I mean, come on, don't tell me that this doesn't happen even now. I'm not so far away from aristocratic thinking that that doesn't happen now. That even happens now. It's so systemic. We don't even see it. But that brought in an imbalance to the creation. And that is why he wanted to destroy the creation and then re-establish it again. And then he tells, I'm going to show it to you in Genesis 6, jump into Genesis 6 with me. Okay, because this is so big. Once you see it, you understand the whole nature of the fall without understanding, oh, man fell. No. Man fell because of the separation. Because right from the beginning, in the second chapter, he said, one thing, it is not good for there to be an imbalance. Straight off, he says, okay, guys, I showed you male, female, male, female, male, female, and now I'm going to tell you before I create Eve, and the word Eve means before anything happens. Eve, like if you talk of Eve, like the eve of Christmas. Eve, okay? She will create everything. She's the mother of everything. She's the divine womb. She's the Eve. Do you have an Eve inside of you or around you? And so, what needs to be understood is she will create out of everything. But if she is not good, it is really bad. That's what it says. It will be a disaster. You'll create completely out of imbalance. Everything will be destroyed if you are only creating out of one part of you. It is not good for man to be alone, means it is not good for man not to be one with the other part of him, because it perverts the image of God. The image of God, he says right from the beginning, is both male and female. But when we look at God, we can't even say Shekinah and think of mother, because we don't see, we only have been presented continuously through Protestant theology, father, 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 without right in the beginning saying mother and father, mother and father, mother and father, mother and father, mother and father. And that's the balance you have at home. It's a balance you run your life with. And when you see it, something shifts and it changes, man. And so right there, it is not good. And then he says, now let me make the woman. And the divine feminine comes in, and then they create everything. Do you understand that? And there's a secret in the story which God is revealing to me will blow you away when it comes.
I just want to quickly butt in.
Yeah.
Today when you said Shuel to play that Shekinah song again, the focus was to be conscious of the mother.
Mom, yeah.
Shekinah, the female.
Yeah.
How many of you did that for the first time ever in your entire life? Like standing here, we can connect with the Father.
Right.
How many of you have ever connected with Mother?
It's systemic. You can't. Because it's been taught, spirit is male. But it's not. In the Bible, throughout the Old Testament, throughout, it has been female. Are we missing something? Why are we creating out of imbalance? Why don't we have the power that we're supposed to have? We say the rising of the bride. We're saying the church, Christ is coming for his bride. But we ourselves don't give any place to the bride. Not even the girls. Girls, I'm not talking about you. You might be looking at me and say, oh yeah, I do. You don't. I speak to some people, believe me, I speak to powerful women in ministry. Some of my best friends in ministry are the most powerful powerhouses in ministry. They have a problem with my teaching. Do you understand that? They will have a problem, because they have submitted to get to the top. Never given a place. So because they worked their butts out for it, they're like, no, but you don't understand. This is how it works. Like, no. What happens? What happens if we give power? What could happen to you? It should restore you. You understand? It will restore the male part of you, no matter what you are, whether you're a boy or girl, it will restore the male part of you if you give power to the feminine. It brings balance back. You understand
I think everyone is so used to power struggles. Like, oh, if we're thinking of the mother, then what about the father? What about the father? Are we forsaking the father now? Because we're used to one person leading.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to take the lead. why can't we just rest in perfect union?
That's right. Come on.
Perfect union. Even if you look at Jesus' life with the Father, you look at what Jesus did for us.
Right.
Is he saying, I'm the only begotten, this is my inheritance, remember you got it from me?
Right.
No, he's saying take it all.
Yeah.
He gives us his place because he's not power struggling with us.
Amen.
He doesn't need to. He knows who he is. Amen. So surely the Father knows who he is. He's not worried about the Spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. Taken from his very side, Spirit, out of the same substance. Okay, now watch this. And so, chapter 6, I do chapter 6 and then maybe do one more chapter. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay, it says, now it came to pass when, chapter 6, Genesis, now it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, that the daughters were born to them. Is it there? Daughters, they're daughters, man. It doesn't say women were born. It means that's a relative place of a daughter. Okay, daughters were born to them. So who's the emphasis on? Well, now you see it. The emphasis is on the fathers. But we always saw it, that the emphasis was on the women who went out lustfully after the angels, or the sons of God, without understanding that daughters were born to the men. And now you see it like, oh my God, yes. So he's talking about the men. He's not talking about the girls. He's saying daughters were born to the men. And then Jesus says, and so I destroyed that world because they were just giving them in marriage to these things, these beings. We don't know what they are. Okay? Enoch talks a bit about them. And then it says, and the sons of God saw the daughters of men. So now these guys, these divine beings saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful. And it says, and they took, just like David took. The word took there. You read the word took, and they took wives for themselves. Do you understand that? There is no part where the woman is coming and say, hey, I like to marry you. The fathers gave them as their wives. Do you understand that? As some sort of appeasement. And believe me, I'm telling you guys, keep watching this because the story develops. Trust me on this. It develops right all the way back to the first 2 chapters. It will blow you away when you see what the Lord is showing me. Okay? Now, once you understand that, that's when God says this. Listen carefully, verse 5. Then the Lord saw the wickedness of man. Is it there? That it was great on the earth. And that every intent of his thoughts and his heart was continuously evil. And he said, I'm so sorry that I made these losers. Sorry. That's what he's saying. Yeah. Paraphrase, Kirby. Okay. That's what he says. Okay. And then you see this because he destroys the earth, and now you turn to the earth being destroyed, and he's found a guy that he thinks is righteous. Like he's looking at you and says, man, you guys are so righteous. You guys are so righteous, I think you all will correct this, right? You all can correct this, guys. And he finds a righteous guy called Noah and says, Noah, I'll tell you what, let's do this over again. I think you miss it in Genesis 1 when he says, I was there, and then my wife was there, my spirit was there, and then we created the earth. And then I think you miss it because Adam didn't realize that when I told him it was not good for him to do it on his own, but he didn't want to. And I think, Noah, you can correct it because now I've cleaned the slate. Okay? Because I saw it again happen continuously, that they did not make room for the rising of the she. So I destroyed that word because they were just treating them objectively. You understand that? So you know what, Noah? I believe in you, man. And so the ark stops. Earth is destroyed. Holy Spirit, right there. You see it here in the first in chapter 8. It says that now when the ark stopped there, it says, and a wind blew over the earth again. So the ruach, the divine feminine, now over the earth again. Just like Genesis, you see the same motifs. Continuously, same parable right there in Genesis. Constantly the story, the narrative is now building. The Holy Spirit is hovering on the water again. And says, Noah, now send the dove. Because it will one day represent the rising of the she when I give birth to my son. You understand it? So the dove comes, lands. You understand it? And then he says, okay, Noah, it's time to do this. We can do this again. There's going to be balance brought into the earth again. The earth is going to be protected, restored. And my God, we're going to create again very powerfully. Like Adam, I'm going to bless you with the same blessing. Be fruitful, multiply, subdue the earth, and rule over it. I'm going to do the same thing with you. Now step out with your bride. Come on. And he goes on and he tells Noah, and then he spoke to Noah saying, go out of the ark. This is in chapter 8, in verse 18. God spoke to Noah saying, go out of the ark, you and your wife. Is it there? Is it there? You and your wife. Noah said, cool, let's do this. And then what does Noah do? Boys, let's go. Leaves the wife in the boat. Never give you nut. Wife in the boat. Boys are out partying. Okay? They step out. God's like, dude, did we miss something here? Why did I destroy the other world? I told you. They were given in marriage. They were just objectivizing this thing. This is wrong. They did not give rise to the feminine. They didn't give rise to that part of me that was so valuable. Huh? And then he says, you know what, no? This is what he says. Then God looked at this, and then he says it like this. Straight after that, in verse 21. The Lord smelled the sacrifice and the aroma, and then he said in his heart, the same thing he said when he destroyed the world before. What did he say? I will never again curse the ground, and there's a secret there, for man's sake, although his imagination of man's heart, the same thing he's saying, the exact same thing, is evil from the beginning. Nor will I again destroy every living thing on the earth. But man, missed it again. Okay? But he says this, but as the earth remains, there will always be male, female, hot, cold, seed time, harvest time. He says it, but I'm telling you, though Noah did not accept it, there is always going to be the two. The balance will remain. It's up to you to see it. You understand that? But he says, now, Noah, I was going to bless you with Adam's one, but I can't give him balance. Again, you won't be able to have authority over the earth, because he says like this. So now, Noah, in chapter 9, he says, be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. And the fear of you, and the dread of you, is it there? And the fear of you and the dread of you shall come on everything on the earth. And he goes on to say that they will rise up to kill you. Come on, man. Is that what's happening to the earth? Even a germ, we can't even touch this like this. It rises up to kill us. Do you understand that? A little teeny weeny germ that we're supposed to have authority over. That happened here. That's here. This is Genesis 9. Till then it was not like that. But he says now even a little germ will become a queen over you. Corona, that's her name. Okay? Even that will overtake you and will be able to kill you. Why? Because I'm calling you forth to bring balance into the world. To make sure that the perfect image of God is represented in every single thing you do. And then God waited and waited and waited and waited and saw the man's wickedness and his imagination was evil. And therefore he said, I will send myself as a man who can restore this. And he will take for himself. The sons of God will see that the daughters of men, that's you, are beautiful. And they will take wives from themselves. But this time, the Father is going to shout it out, because no one knows when the bridegroom is coming. Now check it out. Only the Father knows. But this time, it won't be like those fathers. This Father will know the time and he will know the hour. And then when the bride is ready, and then the Bible says that the Spirit and the bride say come, but that's an absolutely wrong translation, because we read Revelations, it says the Spirit, namely the bride, says come. Did you just get it? That's what Revelation says. And you go into the Greek, it says the Spirit, who is the bride, will say come. And then the father, unlike the fathers in those days who gave their sons, their daughters in just prostitution to whoever they wanted in the way that they thought that they bought and sold objects. This father is going to be different. This son is going to be different. They're going to bring value to the bride. And the father knows the hour when the bride is ready. When the bride says, man, Shekinah means the bride. It is the divine feminine. And when they say come, the father will say, they're ready. And this time, I can give you in marriage out of my choice and out of her choice. Do you understand that? And he's restoring the perfect image of God on all the earth. And I'm telling you guys, this teaching is one of the most powerful teachings you'll ever hear. because it'll change your lives, it'll bring restoration, it'll bring everything that is out of balance back into balance, and you will be powerful creators again because you're restoring the image of God. Okay, God bless you guys, and I'll see you Tuesday. It's going to be awesome.
Wow. Awesome!
Come on. Can we do that song? Let's do Shakana Glory Come.
We wait for you. We wait for you. And we wait for you. To walk in this room. We wait for you. We wait for you. We wait for you. To walk in the room. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Shekinah glory come down. Shekinah glory come down. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Shekinah glory come down. Shekinah glory come down. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Shekinah glory come down. Shekinah glory come down. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Shekinah glory come down. Shekinah glory come down. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Shekinah glory come down. Shekinah glory come down. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Shekinah glory come down. Release the fullness of your spirit. Shekinah glory come. Shekinah glory come. and we wait for you. And we wait for you. To walk in the room. Here we are. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Shekinah glory coming down. Shekinah glory coming down. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Shekinah glory coming down. Let it fall, let it fall, let it fall now. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Shekinah glory come down. Shekinah glory come down. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Shekinah glory come down. Shekinah, come on, lift it up. Hey, here we are, we're standing in your presence. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Shekinah glory come down. Shekinah glory come down. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Here we are, we're standing in your presence. Shekinah glory come down. Release the fullness of your spirit. Shekinah glory come. Shekinah glory come. It's the fullness of your spirit. Shekinah glory come. Shekinah glory come. Oh, it's the fullness of your spirit. Shekinah glory come. Shekinah glory come. It's the fullness of your spirit. Shekinah glory come. Shekinah glory move. Oh, when you move, we want more. When you speak, we want more. When you move, we want more. We want the fullness. Come on. When you move, we want more. When you speak, we want more. When you move, we want more. We want the fullness. One last time. When you move, we want more. Oh, when you speak, we want more. When you move, we want more. We want the fullness. Oh, when you move, we want more. When you speak, we want more. When you move, we want more. We want the fullness. Release the fullness of your spirit. Shekinah glory come. Shekinah glory come. It's the fullness of your spirit. Shekinah glory come. Shekinah glory come. Sing sing well. One more time. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Your presence is heaven to me. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Your presence is heaven to me. Shekinah glory come, Shekinah glory come, release the fullness of your spirit. Shekinah glory come, Shekinah glory come, release the fullness